Hello, everyone. Today we are having interview podcast with Noe Jose.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in Dubai in the Desert Storm studio. We're here to talk about your life, about your background, childhood, drama, everything like that. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm actually great. It's good to see you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I'm excited to be here. I love Dubai. I love the energy here. I love what, the country's doing. Um, and yeah, super excited to be here and talk to you.
Cool, cool. Thank you, first of all, for coming here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I think let's start from your childhood.
I grew up in New York. I was born in New York, in Manhattan. And from my parents are from the Dominican Republic. So shout out to all the Caribbean people out there. And my dad unfortunately died when I was only one, and my mom was a single mom for quite some time. There was a lot of drama in the family. My dad, like, when he died, he had 8 kids, multiple women, and he was like the only guy pretty much in the family that was able to like financially support or take the family to another level, I would say. No discredit to anyone else, but he was like the main driving force for the family to come from Dominican Republic to New York City. And my mom, because she had already been through those processes of like coming from Dominican Republic to New York, she was able to use her experience and help him also with those processes for his family. So I would say that my mom was like the woman out of all of the women that he had that kind of like helped put him in the right direction. And it's so crazy because 3 days before my dad died, my mom told him to go to the Dominican Republic to visit his mom, to do some business over there. And he was like, oh, no, no, I'm gonna do this, stay for a few more days. And my dad was working in the streets. He was a drug lord. And yeah, he didn't listen to my mom. And one morning, it was like 1 a.m. I kept crying. My mom told me the story. I kept crying for some reason. And my mom felt something as well. And she was like, my dad would always come home to my mom, like, or always communicate with her. And at this day, he didn't. This was September 1st, 1993. And my mom went out to different precincts, and then she didn't didn't hear. And then she went to this hospital. And when she arrived, my dad and his friend got shot. They got robbed. And my mom got in time to hear his friend's words. And his friend told my mom, as he was dying in the hospital bed, that my dad said I should have listened to Morena. Like, he should have listened to my mom.
Oh
So
my God.
tons of, think about like me being one, right? And now I'm understanding like what energy means and like transfer of energy. So, and especially when you're a kid, you receive all of these, surroundings.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with a lot of trauma. My mom, if she was only 19, 20 years old when that happened. So I was receiving all that energy as a kid, and I grew up with that. I was super unstable. I went to the Dominican Republic. After that, I lived with my grandparents. There was tons of disorder there as well. I mean, it was a beautiful experience, but there was also like people wanted money from my mom, and things like that. So I noticed that now, because I'm paying attention a lot to like who I am, right? Like, why am I so comfortable with being uncomfortable, like not living in one place, or like being okay with like having multiple friends and experiencing new things. And it's because since a child, I've kind of like subliminally been put in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I kind of grew up from country to country, neighborhood to neighborhood. And I never really lived in a neighborhood more than like a year or two. Um, and I lived all around New York City, from the Bronx, Manhattan to Brooklyn. I lived in Queens outside of the MoMA PS1 for a bit. And yeah, like that was basically, a little bit of my childhood, like growing up, where I've been. And I appreciate it now a lot because it really made me a diverse person,
Yeah.
to be able to hang with different kinds of people and things like that. But I must say, like, I'm really proud of my mom. She's actually my hero because she never gave up, and she always knew that putting me in after school programs or getting some mentorship programs for me, like, she always wanted the best for me. And now I didn't like it when I was growing up because I'm like, why do I gotta wear Gap, or why Old Navy? I want to wear Rockaware, or
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
why do I gotta go to this after school program? But now I understand, like, wow, like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Like this is always, I think, happening, with the children, especially. Like as a child, you don't understand why your parents are doing some particular things, But when you grow up, you understand, okay, that was so clever, That
exactly,
really helped me.
yeah,
Yeah. So as a child, you didn't know what is comfort, right?
nah,
Even though your mom was trying, to make you feel safe and provide you things, it was hard for you, right? So after that, when you were growing up, you went to school. What was in school?
school for me was like, I was always smart, but I knew that what I was learning, um I'm gonna fast forward to like 15 years old,
Okay.
right? And so because I got through school, I had good grades, B's, barely any C's. It was mainly B's and A's. And I started to realize, like, okay, what I'm learning right now is not what makes me feel empowered. And so I did kind of like what I needed to make sure my mom was happy. She would not let me. She wouldn't be a fun mom if I had anything less than an 85. Like if I had an 82, she would like be like what are you doing in school that you're
Yeah.
missing 20 something points? So I would always do at least to get an 85, and then everything else was like energy for me. It was like I feel good when I have attention. I feel good when I have friends. I feel good when we're playing sports, or like when I win, or and these are the kinds of things that I started paying attention to. And when I went to high school, I remember in ninth grade, um, it was that moment where like people are hitting puberty, and like now you start thinking about girls, and like girls are thinking about guys. And I started thinking about exactly that, like, okay, like how am I liked by the girl that I like? And I realized that it was like two things. It was like money and fashion. And I knew that my mom wasn't like the most well-off mom. She's a single mom working two jobs.
Yeah.
I had two sisters now that are younger than me. Shout out to Hillary and Alondra. And I was like, okay, like I need to do something,
Yeah.
and it took me some time to kind of like figure it out. But I met this one of my classmates. His name is Antonio King. Shout out to him. I would never forget him ever in my life because he actually fueled my entrepreneurial fire. He
Okay.
he came to school with like a book bag full of sodas one day, and I saw him selling the sodas, and I was like, wow, like this guy just sold some sodas, made some money. I asked him about the business, and I was like, yo, give me a job. I know everybody in the school, because I was always kind of like popular in a way, and
Okay.
so I started selling sodas for him, and by the second day he fired me, and
This
I
is what called partnership.
he fired me, and his reason was, it was a good reason. Now that I understand business, it was like, hey, look, I could only sell X amount of sodas per day, which means that if you help me, I have to split my profit with you, and I'm gonna sell the sodas regardless. So I was like, you know what, I totally understand. And then I became his competitor. And my friend T, thank you so much, T. T's from New York, and he was in 2 grades above me, and I needed, I think it was like $100 investment at the time, and I didn't want to ask my mom because I knew that like she was gonna she was gonna think my mom didn't really want me to work because she didn't want me to fall in love with money. She wanted me to focus on studies. So I needed to kind of like do this on the down low if I was gonna start selling sodas. And I asked T for the investment. I had to tell him like, hey man, like look, this guy did it, he's doing it, like you invest in me, I'm gonna pay you back with interest.
So you're like providing him a business plan, right?
Yeah, I provided him a business plan without a deck. This is like my first thing was always like the gift of gab, like hey look, I can prove to you that I can do this. And he was like, you know what, okay, here's the $100. And I'll tell you a funny story. That day that I got the money, I had to go to this warehouse to buy the sodas, and you buy them in a discount, at a discount. So it'll be like for $12 you get like 24 sodas,
Okay.
right, or 30 sodas if it was on discount. And I went and I bought $100 worth, and they gave me like this huge box, right? And it started raining, and I didn't want to use money on a taxi because this was an investment, so it's like I gotta save every dollar that I
Right.
can. So I'm walking to the bus, dragging this box like super heavy. Like I will stop it every 20 steps. I will stop,
Oh
and it
no.
starts raining, right? And if the sodas are in a cardboard box, and then it starts getting wet, you could imagine what happens next. The box, yes, it's like just opens
Oh
up.
my
Sodas are
God.
rolling in the street. There's like women trying to help me, like here, while it's raining. And that was that moment I realized I was like, I'm gonna make it, cause like I'm going through whatever I need to go through to make sure that I become self-sustainable. And that didn't stop me. Like I was super embarrassed. My ego was like on the floor. Like think about it. I had to go to school to sell sodas when like other kids were getting $200 allowances a week for just existing, right?
Yeah.
And but then I became like even more cool because everyone was like, wow, like you're making your own money.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that fueled my confidence. And you know then after that, like I got so popular, I was making like maybe $800 a week. And I
That's pretty actually much
crazy,
for
right?
a kid. Yeah.
Yeah, like yeah, no one will let me lie. Like anyone that's following me that knows me since high school, they know I had like every Jordan, every SB, different kinds of, when skinny jeans came out,
Wow.
I was like shopping in Soho at like the clientele store at BBC. And that kind of like it gave me that, like I was able to get some girlfriends, like
Yeah.
my first girlfriend in high school who actually, like, I won't say what happened, but it was, her name was Marlene. She's Cardi B's cousin, the singer. And then I started kind of like building a reputation, like, oh, you have a pretty girl,
Yeah.
like, this is who you are and what you're doing. And that really fueled me. And that was pretty much high school for me. I won like most in the yearbook, most how do you say, like, something to be successful, I forget, it's so many years ago, but like most likely to be successful, I
Yeah.
won that, and I won best dressed. So like that also gave me like
Everything you wanted, right? To be like the most fashionable one and the most popular one, right?
manifestation,
Successful.
right?
Exactly.
So like,
Exactly.
and oh, I gotta say that now that I said that word, my friend T was the one that showed me the video The Secret while I was in high school.
Okay.
And I also saw Zeitgeist Addendum. So The Secret helped me start to realize that I can think of the life that I want and attract it, but I had to vibrate in what I wanted.
Yeah.
And then Zeitgeist opened my eyes to like the government and what politics were and like what money means. And like, so at like 16, 17 years old, I already kind of started understanding the macro economics of the world, and understanding like, okay, this is how money works, this is how people are printing money, and how people are being enslaved through jobs and corporations are and that kind of like just shaped my perspective and gave me this like fuel for passion. Because I come from Dominican Republic, that I some of my childhood was there, and it was extremely poor. I would say poor, I wouldn't really say poor anymore, because now that I look back, these are some of the happiest people that I know. What I mean by poor is that they don't have the access that the Western world has. I would say,
Mm-hmm.
like in America or
Mm-hmm.
places like Dubai, where you can get access to anything you want. Over there, you
Right.
don't have that. I think now, I went in 2019. Now everything is becoming westernized. I think that the internet came out and helped the world be more like one.
Mm-hmm.
Although some people think like, oh, we're losing each other's culture and things like that.
Yeah.
But we've seen it with COVID, that tourism and globalization is actually helping the world move forward. Because if we don't travel, right,
Mm-hmm.
then we can't share our ideas. We can't spend money in other communities. And if we get take that, if we don't have that, if we don't have the internet, or if we don't have access to moving forward, then the world doesn't evolve as fast as it should be.
That's right. That's right. And actually, interesting thing I wanted to mention about the manifestation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So here's the thing, most people, they don't understand exactly what does that mean. The thing that, okay, so if I will just think about what I want to have, that's it. It will come. But the difference here is that you have to do actions for that,
Mm-hmm.
not just thinking about what you want to have, but do real things.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Like, I read this book called Frequency by Penny Pierce.
Oh, yeah.
And that book changed everything for me, because the secret is like surface level, and then
Yeah.
you kind of get to the frequency, which is how do you vibrate, which is exactly what you said. It's like you have to act and do the
Right.
things that you want to
Right.
manifest, and you have to get extremely disciplined about it. You have to start paying attention to. I just released a reel on Instagram that got like 13,000 views,
Mm.
all organic. Like, all my other reels got like 2,000, 3,000. Because I never really cared much about Instagram, because I
Mm.
knew like it's about doing things, and then people will come when you do. But I released this reel, which was in a book that I read. I got it from a book I read called Get Out Your Head. And it was like, hey, look, um, your emotions, they dictate your thoughts dictate your actions, and your actions dictate the relationships with your environment and the people around you. So
Okay.
if we can control our thoughts, not control, but if we can be conscious about our thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
our emotions,
Mm-hmm.
then we can have better thoughts. And if we have better thoughts, we have better actions. And then with those better
Mm-hmm.
actions, we have better relationships, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's with ourselves or whether it is with the people around.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, that's something that I really want people to start thinking more,
Mm-hmm.
especially like the young folks,
Mm-hmm.
and like the kids and the children,
Mm-hmm.
that if they continue to keep their vibration high as children, happy, playful, instead of going down the negative side of like fighting, violence, jealousy,
Yeah.
they're gonna be in a downward spiral. And yeah.
See, that's the thing, because nowadays I think it's very hard to do this, since like you go on media, everything is like almost negative.
Yeah.
Some maybe drama. There's like good drama and there's actually very negative drama, okay? And like people are talking shit about each other and all this stuff. So it's like it's hard to keep children away from it. And how it is called, Gen Z,
Yeah.
right? It's all about internet. You cannot keep your child without having a phone, and being on internet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's so, I have a niece and a nephew, and I see them all the time on the iPad, and like, for parents, right? Like, how could a parent be with the niece and nephew, or with their kid 24/7? It's impossible. They have their
exactly.
own life to live.
Exactly.
But one thing that I feel like we need to get better at is not leaving them on autopilot, and understanding that they need
Mm-hmm.
to really monitor what
Mm-hmm.
information is being coming in from that, because
Mm-hmm.
they're not, most parents I know in my community aren't really vetting the YouTube channels their kids are going on. Whether even if it's a cartoon, do you know the intention of the cartoon? Do you know
Exactly.
who's the producer of the cartoon? Do you know what it like they don't even watch the cartoon themselves. Usually like I met someone's parent and they would watch everything before their kids would watch it. And it's like it just opened my eyes to understanding like wow, this person actually really cares about the mental capacity of their child, of like what they're going to be taking in, because what they take in once again plays on their emotions.
Yeah.
Then after that their emotions plays on their thoughts. Their thoughts then influence their actions
Yeah.
then influence their relationships. So for me, like, I'm not a perfect kid, but I was definitely influenced by a lot of violence. Like I grew up in turf wars, gang wars, tons of jealousy. Like I remember, like one of my good friends, he basically like wrote a letter to my girlfriend at the time saying that I don't really love her, and like this was like my best friend. You know what I'm like? So he probably has been influenced in movies or things he was watching.
Or maybe he just liked your
Yeah.
girlfriend, you know?
but I would never do that. Like if I would like if I was to like my friend's girlfriend, I would not be his friend anymore, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
like I would just I don't know, that's just not in it's not in me. Like for some reason, like people are just different.
Yeah.
But I think that, like, just to go back on the manifestation, like as people see, like I get DMs all the time from people like, hey bro, I see your success, I see that what you've been doing. Like I started working with brands at an early age. Like my first job after college was working for Spark 44, and our client was Range Rover and Jaguar. So at 21, I was already in a 60-person agency that had offices in multiple jurisdictions, and I was communicating with the C-suite and also with the client. And I was basically managing launching a product. So I saw everything from A to Z on how to launch a multi-million dollar um, product, which was
Yeah.
the Range Rover Velar 2018. And once I understood the system of how to do the research to look at the psyche of why somebody wants to buy it, how do we entertain someone to even want to buy this product, like what do we send in the mail, like how do we track people online to see who would like to buy this stuff. I mean, like there's a complete science behind closed doors that 90% of the world doesn't really know what's going on. But as soon I worked with them for a year, and then I said, you know what? I don't want to do this for a car company anymore. I want to do this for musicians and artists and fashion brands, because that's like what was passionate for me.
Yeah.
And I remember I got up from the desk and I said, you know what? I'm not coming back here no more. And like tons of entrepreneurs have a similar story, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go do my own shows. I know the artists, I know the venues, I know how to market the shows. So this is what I'm gonna go do. And I before I quit, I started planning the show, and I quit the day of the show.
Okay.
So I went and I sold out the show the same day I quit my job. It was at
Yeah.
Webster Hall in the basement with my friend, and that was my start to managing artists, producing shows on my own. And then I did all of that, and then after doing all of that, I started basically like just exploring what life was, and I started getting hired by the nightclubs. So at some point, I was making $1,000 a night 4 times a week. That's basically like how I started making money, like on
Okay.
my own. And so I was working for nightclubs like One Oak, Up and Down, Catch, Gold Bar, and then and how I was working was I was basically bringing a group of friends that looked a certain way, so like models, influencers types. So I would get a table at the nightclub. They would give me alcohol, food, as long as I had the right energy and the right look. And that's been, I did that for 3 years, and that was like my first real touch to money after like working for an agency, because you at an agency you're making like $60,000 a year, after taxes, so it's not really money. But once you're making now $1,000 a night, four nights a week,
It's a big
like it's
difference,
a
right?
huge difference. Like it got to the point where like I'll be wearing Rick Owens all the time. I'd be spending $500 on dinners. I would be taking multiple girls out. I had multiple cars, like floor to ceiling window apartment in the Lower East Side. Like I moved around, and then from there, I was like, you know what, like I'm doing all of this, but no one respects me the way I want to be respected, because they just see me as the guy that can bring hot girls, or the guy that can dance or make a vibe. So psychologically, it was doing something to my confidence, and I was
Yeah.
like, I was asking the universe to remove me from there, but I didn't want to lose the financial freedom that I had. And one day, like a guy decided to, like, when you're in this environment, people are drinking, and he tried to like have an argument with one of the girls because she didn't like him, and I went to go defend her.
Okay.
The guy didn't like that, and we ended up being in a fight, big brawl, right? And I got fired from every club the next day. They call
Really?
one club emailed me. I remember her name was Amanda, and she was like, "Hey, look, because of what happened, we can't allow you to come into work tonight."
Just because you defended the girl.
But they don't know that they want to protect the client, because the client is the one that's bringing the money, right? Like
Yeah.
they can find another girl, or
Yeah.
another promoter.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it that way. These were the girls that were basically providing my livelihood, and also theirs. And so I got into this fight. I lose I lose my phone that day. I lose the nightclubs the next day. So I went from having two apartments and models living in the apartments, like my own and then theirs, and then to no money coming in. So I basically, and I had signed leases for these apartments. So I can't just be like, let me stop paying the rent,
Yeah.
because my business partners were the ones that put their name down for it. So because I'm so loyal, someone else would have been like, you know what, forget it. Like, your credit is ruined. I'm not gonna be spending money out of my savings to keep these apartments. But that's exactly what I did. I tried to get people to rent it and Airbnb, but it didn't happen in like 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
So for about 3 to 4 months, I had to pay $4,000 a month for the model's apartment, which they were no longer living in it because I had no deals, right? So they went to go work with other promoters and live in other houses, and also pay my apartment. So like the little whatever money that I had saved like was slowly going away, right? And then
You didn't have a backup plan.
no
So
backup
you
plan.
were
No
not
backup plan.
expecting such
I
outcome.
I used to think like, oh my God, I hit the lottery. Like I can't believe I'm being paid to have fun. Like, without having any music, without having a single out, without being an actor. I was literally just making money for going out for 3 hours a night. So I had no backup plan. And then I went back once that happened to me. I was like, you know what? Go back to doing your own shows. Create your own club. Like, this is what you were doing, when you first left the agency. Like, go back to that. So I did that.
And you knew what to do, you
Yeah.
knew the steps.
It just wasn't as financially lucrative, because the whole business model was artists would need to perform, and then they would only sell maybe like 15 tickets.
Yeah.
Like 10 to 15 tickets. Rarely someone will bring 100 people to their show.
Yeah.
And so like I would be stuck paying for the venue, buying the alcohol, paying the staff, paying the equipment rental, or whatever
Right.
whatever was needed. Then I'd give these artists the opportunity to shine, and then they would expect me to bring the crowd as well. So I did it for a year and a half, because I always thought like, oh, it'll work next time. It'll work next time. Like I will break even. Break
Yeah.
even. There was tons of shows where I lost money, but I had money from the savings, so I didn't really care. I'm like, you know what? I gotta make this work. I gotta make this work. And then, up to one point, I was like, you know what? Like, this isn't really working.
Yeah.
And I started just managing artists. So I was managing Young Paris with Rock Nation. I also was helping co-manage Messia, who was signed to Atlantic. And, you know, I was traveling with them, getting shows, getting commission from the shows. And that kind of like kept me afloat. And then COVID hit. So there was no shows, there was no events,
Lockdown.
lockdown. And I was like, I still have all of these industry executives that I know that I've met throughout the
Yeah.
years. How do I transition that into something? So I kept going out. We would like eat at Cipriani's all the time. We would, me and my friend Jorge. Jorge really helped me a lot. He's like my little brother. He's a jewelry designer, and he was putting jewelry on like celebrities and athletes. And I also had celebrity friends. So we started working together, hanging out, creating content, building his profile, making sales. Like I would wear a chain on my neck and sell it like this. Like I remember at Surf Lodge, I sold I sold a chain off my neck. One time we were sitting in an apartment. I woke up like after my friends had a get together. I had a $18,000 Rolex on, buzzed down, and we sold it for 22,000. I had a guy that just woke up next to me on the couch, and that guy ended up being my business partner in the mansions in Los Angeles.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah, so he
Okay.
had a house in LA that he was Airbnb-ing. It had a music studio. He told me about it, and immediately I saw an opportunity because when I was younger, I went to Columbia University to this program called Nifty. It was the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship. And I had won third place. And my idea was that I had this multi-level production house where artists can be able to build their portfolios there, and then we would take a percentage of the revenue, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, this is genius. This is me at 16, right? I'm like, oh, we need a house where these people could come. And I win third place, and this always stayed in my mind. Through me winning that, I met a dear Curtis, who was at the time Russell Simmons' right-hand man for managing Rush Philanthropics. Like some of the things and then I met like the director of Hennessy in New York. I'm blanking out on his name, but because I won third place, they introduced me to people in my industry that I wanted to get into.
Yeah.
And me and Adir Curtis, we're still connected to this day. He's like, you know, producing shows for Netflix. He has like a staging business in Hollywood Hills where like he does all the houses in Bel Air. But you know, back to the story of Hollywood, of how I went from New York to Los Angeles. I was living in this like small apartment in the projects, in project housing, when COVID hit. And like all my money was almost going away. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like down to like 50K. How do I reproduce this, right? And I sell the watch to him, and then he tells me, hey, look, come to LA. If you're ever in LA, hit me up. So for like 2 months, I started thinking about how to be in business with him. So
Yeah.
I took my own flight to Los Angeles. Adir Curtis actually got me the flight.
So basically, you just took a flight and
Yeah, I was like, you know, because I was like, yo, I read The Secret, I read the books.
yeah.
Like, why do I feel like I'm a victim to my environment right now? Like,
Yeah.
this is not how I should be. Like, get to the next level. So immediately I was like, let me start calling the high level people that I know. If I don't talk to them, they're not gonna call me.
Yeah.
So I called a few people. I called him. I said, hey, look, I could bring my celebrity friends and rent out the house for you. He told me he was making like $20,000 a month by doing his rentals. I said, hey, bro, I could triple that, double or triple that income, and then you just give me 20% of what I bring of the earnings.
Yeah.
So the first weekend, I said, let me pay you to rent the house, because immediately you got to know how to add value, right? Like no one wants to give you nothing for free. So I was like, yo, let me rent the house for the weekend. I'll give you $3,000
And you'll see.
and you'll see, right? So, and if you don't see, at least you made what you were renting it, because you was renting it for $1,500 a day.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, you know, so I rented the house. I brought my friends. I rented out the studios for $1,000 for 12 hours. I had 3 studio sessions. I made the money back, and he came and he saw like all the artists working and like the people and the vibe in the house, and he loved it. And he was like, you know what, like become my partner, stay in the house and bring the clients, and we split the income. I'll give you 33%. So it was more than even what I asked for. So I was getting like 2 sessions booked a day at $1,000 to $1,500 each session. So I took his business and doubled the amount. It was making like 40 to 60,000. So I was making a percentage of that. So through COVID for like 5 6 months, that's what I was doing. And then one client came and they rented out the house for like 8 months. So I had to leave the mansion and get myself an apartment. And I didn't like my lifestyle in the apartment anymore because I'm like,
You
I
got
can't,
used
you
to
know what I
it, you
mean?
know?
I had the
Yeah.
sauna, I had the infinity pool, I had the chef, I would bring in the masseuse. I had the music studio, so I was recording music. I have like tons of music with artists that are
Yeah.
unreleased. So it was a different level of vibration, living there. And then I pivoted from wanting to get out of the music industry, because even though it was fun and I made it like a wellness thing for me, I knew that the energy that I was surrounding myself with were like people having guns, people popping perks, which is these pills, um, smoking a lot. So I also knew that I didn't want to be a part of that dark side, even though that was what was bringing me money. So like I'm battling this energy karmically, because yes, I feel like I'm thriving, but I'm also being a part of this negative cycle.
Yeah.
Right, like where the music that's being recorded there, that I'm providing them a place to record.
And it just bothers you,
It
right?
just, for some reason, it just didn't sit well with me. So I wanted to move industries into the tech side, because I knew like, hey, if I build a product, some sort of app or some sort of system,
Yeah.
I can evaluate that at a lot more. I think it's like 10 times or 20 times more than what is worth, than what it's actually worth. So I wanted to get into that world, and I knew this guy that I met in the nightclubs, who was building some sort of tech company, membership club, kind of idea. And because while I was doing the studio stuff, I was also working with like Frank Mueller. I helped him with the influencer campaign. I had worked with Soho House by bringing influencers and celebrities to multiple of their locations.
Right.
So I already had this. This is how I even made the business of the house work, is because I had all of those influencers there. So then, I decided to do that, and working with him and trying to do that, with the tech company, was cool for a beginning. And then like I realized that it wasn't as professional as I had worked with Range Rover or with Frank Mueller, or like the business deal that I had with the house, like where there was agreements and
Yeah.
contracts. So like I did the best that I could. It was this company. If anybody wants to ask me, I can mention it off record. I don't want to give more light to it, but at the end of the day, like I just realized that you got to pay attention to red flags. you know you just have to, like whenever you feel like something is not right, or like there's a book to life, pretty much. It's an unwritten book, but you got to follow that energy of
Yeah.
like, hey, this doesn't feel right, this is not good. So that, just that
Yeah.
because you're my friend, I'm not gonna continue doing this, because this is my reputation, this is my movie, this is my world. I have to
Right.
control my environment. And
Right.
now that I left working with him and that tech company, now I'm back to kind of like building my own agency, where I'm helping projects with marketing, consulting, influencer marketing. And right now I'm working with an NFT project and another tech company, and just basically helping them tell their story so that they can be able to make sense to their audience. Because there's tons, like, how many companies are being born a day, like, or like tons of
A
companies,
lot.
right?
A lot, yeah.
And like they just don't have someone on their team, or many of them, that can like position them to the market, right? Because they don't for some reason they just don't think that way, and
Yeah.
everybody is helping each other. We're co-creators, you know? So I was like, yo, instead of working for one company, you know, what I like is to travel. I like to meet new people and gain ideas from the world so that I can then put them into projects. So now this is like the next step for me in my evolution is like taking these companies that I attract or that I'm working with to get them to what they want, to get to the goals that they want.
So how did the popularity change your life? Like, let's say your relationships, romantic friendships, and etc. Also, business-wise, and
Yeah, you know, I would say like because I was always in multiple places,
yeah.
I never really had a long-term relationship. I had one relationship where she was from Germany, and you know, I feel like that was a great relationship for me because she was so like soft and so caring, and but because I was always hustling, always looking for the next deal or like you know I felt like I had so much pressure, especially because
Yeah.
I'm the oldest in the family and I also left my neighborhood and, you know, people are watching me and you feel that. You feel that popularity kind of gives you this unseen pressure where you have to perform. You're always
Yeah.
performing. And whenever you know, you could be doing well, but if they don't feel like you're doing well, then you're not doing well. And then that kind of like plays a role in your emotions. Once again, it goes
Yeah.
to your thoughts, from your thoughts to your actions,
And then the reality.
and then the reality. So it's like, you know, I told myself like, hey, like, you don't want to be famous. You don't want to be popular. Like you thought that that's what you wanted because you felt like you can take popularity to move into an income strategy, which can be the case for many people. But I also know the negative aspects, and I felt them firsthand. You know, in my reality, that being famous can also be your downfall. You
Yeah.
know, because you start focusing more on how to stay famous instead of like how to be a good human or how to be more of a family person or because you kind of like start getting this you know it's just this energy,
Yeah.
right?
Have
And
you ever like, I don't know, thought or even felt like you're losing yourself, you know? The
a
way that
100%.
you have to like always fake the things. Let's say you cannot be like, let's say, sad or something else when you're around people, you know? You have to be always like cool and
Yeah.
showing that everything is great with me, you know? I don't have any problems. Everything is so nice. And then you're coming home and you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, there's many times where I contemplating crying on Instagram. Like, just because I wanted to show that side of someone who has worked with all these brands, has worked with all these artists. But then, like, I'm like, then it's just like a guy crying. So like I had to shift my strategy to how do I make people feel the realness of me and like of the situation,
Yeah.
but in a way where it's still inspiring. So like I've had to switch my approach from those things, and I also don't want other people to feel sad or to tap into that sadness. Like recognize it, know that it's there, evaluate why it's there, and
Yeah.
then try and figure out how to not be in that state of mind. So that's basically what I'm focused on now more. Like I'm in a relationship right now, and you know, because I haven't been in long-term relationships or lived with a girlfriend or you know, it's so difficult to be with somebody because you have to kind of like understand their trains of thought. You have to
Yeah.
accept their thinking. You have to be in alignment with what they're saying. You have
It's a
to
work.
it's like so much work that I thought
Yeah.
that I was ready for, but I'm now realizing like it's a lot of work. Even you know, and
Yeah.
I don't want to give up because I know that the work gotta be done regardless. You know, it's not like I'm gonna meet someone and be like, oh, perfect, you know me, you know. That's a dream, you know, but we have to realize that the grass is not greener on the other side. It's only greener where you water it. And I saw this Will Smith interview one time, and he was like, "You have to commit. When you see something you like,
Commit.
commit to it."
Yeah.
And I kind of like was like hesitant a bit after I started committing to things, because then I'm like, okay, I committed because I like you, and then now I have to understand and the reality of how you think, how you act, your family, your genetic disposition. Like, now I've committed, right? But now I'm
You have
also
no way out,
yeah,
right?
so I'm like, I'm like, for people out there, I guess I would definitely want to share this message, is like, yes, commit, but start learning how to pay attention to what you really want in your life.
Yeah.
Because many girls are beautiful, many men are beautiful, and people fall first for beauty. I mean, for me, that's the case. Like, oh, I see this woman is beautiful. I want her to be in my life, right? But instead of me having a conversation with her first.
This is like psychology is working, you know?
Mm-hmm.
First you see what you like, and then, I don't know, just like emotionally, you already want this person, you know?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, which I think that we need to start training our minds.
right.
Like, the more of us speak about this, I think people will start understanding that.
Right.
And my mentors taught me the same thing. It's like actually, I will save this for another talk. I have something I wanted to share. But yeah, like so yeah, I'm just super excited to like where I am in my life right now. I'm able to support people around me in different ways. And I'm just excited for what the future holds. I think that, like, I'm probably gonna be releasing a book, something short, just kind of like talking about the experiences I've had with the people I've met from, like, multiple multimillionaires that I've done work with, the brands, like co-founder of Ethereum, founder of EOS, people like Brock Pierce.
Yeah.
I've learned so much from them, and I want to be able to tell what I've learned from these people through
Yeah.
my perspective. Because when I go in these rooms, I'll be quite honest with you, there's not many people that look like me or feel like me. And I think that that's a special thing that I've been able to see these things. And I can't just post a picture, because a picture, even though it's worth 1,000 words, I'd rather write the 1,000 words of how I feel, how it made me feel, how I navigated it. Did these relationships last? How did they perceive me? Because
Right.
these things are going to help shape the future of these 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, all the way up to 17. When they see and hear these things, they're going to be like, you know what? I could be in that room too. Because I never thought that I would be in a room full of 45, 50, 60-year-old men who have amassed tons of wealth, whether it's financially, spiritually. That's another thing. Like, finances isn't everything. There needs to be some sort of balance, and that's one of the
Yeah.
things that I've learned from these people that I'm talking about. It's like, some of them have made a lot of money and went bankrupt, but they've gained access and they have friends, so they're rich in friends that were able to give them a situation to go to the next level.
Improve, yeah.
Exactly. So, like, a lot of people are just focused on money, and then they have no friends, they have no education, they don't know anything beside what their business is, and they live in this little cycle of just doing what they know. And I don't think that that's a fulfilled life, although you could support yourself and support your family. But I think it's much more fun when you have such a different, like, wide array of experiences to cultivate a better life.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. And people, they usually just see the picture, and they think that, okay, this guy was born rich.
Yeah.
Someone gave him everything. And most people, they don't see all work, what you did with what you struggled. So that's actually good thing to talk about it, and to show it. And by the way, I think it's a good idea for you to make like a podcast, talking about your struggles, your what you've learned from your experience, and even though having a conversations with all of the people you mentioned today, and just yeah, I think it would be very nice.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I might just do that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah, we talked for a while, right?
yeah.
And I think we've mentioned pretty much a lot, and for people it will be also useful, to think about some things that you mentioned, and I hope that we were helpful. So yeah, thank you for much. Thank you for thank you so much for. Okay. Thank you so much for being here with us, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and I hope to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, you're traveling to Miami, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking. I've been commissioned to be at Art Basel, so we're thinking about doing an event there with like people like Jerry Lorenzo, Zach B, a few companies. So I think I'll be there for December 1st. If not, then I'm probably gonna go to Thailand. We're
Okay.
thinking of doing a restaurant over there.
Ooh,
Yeah.
okay. Where can we find you? What's your social
Um.
media?
Yeah. So on Instagram right now is the agency's name, which is LaVita Gold, LaVitaGold. And that's pretty much the number one place that I'm communicating in right now, besides my phone number. But we'll keep that private.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much being here. If you watched the whole interview, wow, that's great. And yeah, subscribe to our channels, our social media, and we'll be soon.
Perfect.
Bye.
Bye bye.